From the middle of the Golden State to your device, this is the Arnett Show, and I'm your host, Aaron Arnett, a Christian husband, comedy philosopher, and concerned citizen. And this is my program where we dissect the reasoning, the theological implications, and comedy behind current events and act as a counterbalance to the outrage culture. And this is episode 1 of the new Arnett Show, a reboot of the program. And I'm so looking forward to taking this journey here with you on the program. Now, if you're new to the show, you can find us at thearnettshow.com. Anywhere on social media, it is, of course, just The Arnett Show. You can find us there. If you're interested in following me personally on Twitter, it is Aaron Arnett, but it's confusing. It's Aaron, Aaron, and then the letter R, and then Nett, and that's how you can find me there. So what is this program? And why am I saying the new Arnett Show? Well, I am saying those things because this is a reboot of the original program. So this is episode 1, the new episode 1. It's like new Coke, but hopefully better and more well-received by people. And I'm coming to you live right now on YouTube, but also downloaded to your magical streaming downloading device, probably an iPhone. The statistics say that most of the downloads are done on an iOS device, despite how much pushback I get when people see that I'm an iPhone user. Look, I like it. It works for me, and I don't have any reason to question it. Am I advertising for Apple? No, but I'd like to. So if you're listening, Steve Jobs and company from the grave, then I would love to have you sponsor this podcast because we, of course, need sponsors. And if you would like to sponsor the program, then reach out to us on Facebook, facebook.com/The Arnett Show. Well, here are your headlines for today. Just a few of them, to name a few. Donald Trump is wow, what a way to start. Donald Trump is being called a racist by Congress members after a set of tweets over the weekend. The Disney company has been under attack by one of the granddaughters of Walt, quote, Mr. Mickey, end quote, Disney, regarding worker happiness and pay disparities. And as of recording this podcast, over 1.5 million Americans have signed up to storm Area 51 this fall. Alligators may have learned how to do meth in Alabama. 4 Australian chicken, that would make the story even better. 4 Australian children drove over 600 miles before being stopped by police. And attention outrage culture, get your listening angry ears ready. Another beloved movie character might be different than you remember it. And lastly, we'll end the program with a new segment, which is, new no matter who you are while you're listening. A new segment I like to call Not So Accurate History, where we're going to learn the history of bowling at the end of this program. All of that and more still to come right here on The Arnett Show. So if you're not a fan of Donald Trump, then depending on how you look at things, you may be very happy or you may be very angry. It just depends on how you look at it, really. Just depends on how you look at it. So Donald Trump is under fire this week, or just in the last 24 hours, really, for some comments that he's made on Twitter. Twitter, by the way, in case you're not keeping track, Twitter is, at war against free speech. Not that I care. I mean, I do, because, free speech gives me the ability to do this podcast. But not that, listen, I'm not one of those people who's on InfoWars and all that kind of stuff. And I think they should have the right to do what they're doing. But I'm not one of those guys who's like, free speech is under attack. When free speech is actually under attack, I'll let you know. But for now, just remember, when you say that people are censoring you on Facebook and Twitter and blah, 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 all those things, did you ever try, when we were in the world of just newspapers, to just, send a letter to the newspaper and expect that they had to put that out there for everyone to see? No, this is a new thing we're in. So until we get a ruling that says that social media is a public utility, like cable or telephones or whatever, don't tell me that free speech is being trampled. They're businesses, right? So they can... can you imagine, like, if you went into a store and just started screaming? Would you think that that's like your free right? No, it's a private business. Anyway, Donald Trump is in trouble for a couple tweets that he sent. And I'm going to read the tweets. And here's the question I want you to answer. Is what Donald Trump said racist? Is it Ray Ray? Because a lot of people on the left are saying it's really Ray Ray. It's really racist. And people on the right are saying there's no way in the world that that's racist. And I just want you to think for yourself if this is racist. And then after you're done thinking for yourself, I'll give you maybe an insight on how you should think. Donald J, which I don't know, is it Jeffrey? I don't know what the J stands for. I actually don't. So Donald J. Trump, at Real Donald Trump on Twitter, over the weekend said, and I quote, "So interesting to see, quote, progressive, end quote, Democrat congresswomen who originally came from countries whose governments are a complete and total catastrophe, the worst, most corrupt, and inept anywhere in the world, if they even have a functioning government at all, now loudly, ... because he ran out of room on the tweet, ... and viciously telling the people of the United States, the greatest and most powerful nation on earth, how our government is to be run. Why don't they go back and help fix the totally broken and crime-infested places from which they came? Then come back and show us how ... it is done. These places need your help badly. You can't leave fast enough. I'm sure that Nancy Pelosi would be very happy to quickly work out the free travel arrangements." Okay, now take a second. Think to yourself, is what Donald Trump said racist? Is this the most Ray thing he's ever said? And before you answer, I want you to think about what your definition of racism is. Now, is racism, is it racist to say something to the effect of, oh, gee, I went to, I don't know, let's just name Iran. Let's not even pick a real country. I'm staring at cardboard boxes over here because we just moved. I went to Cardboard Box Land last week, had a great vacation, but, I just didn't like it. It was kind of scummy. There was cardboard boxes all over the place. I don't like that country. Is it racist to say that without ever really mentioning the people, without making an attack towards a person, to talk about a country? Is that racist? Because that's going to define for you whether or not what Donald Trump said is racist. Now, if you think that talking about any other country in the world in a negative light is racist, then of course you're going to think what he said was in fact Ray. But if you are of the opinion that all the countries that Donald Trump was talking about are actually really terrible countries, then I think you're going to say, yeah, yay, Donald Trump. Go DJ, go Prezi DJ, we love you. DJ Trump, We love you, DJ Trump. That should be how he runs. He should put on some sunglasses and a backwards hat and run as DJ Trump. That'd be really cool. And he could like spin some records, and I'd love that. But so depending on how you look at those things is gonna depend, or is gonna affect how you react to these claims of racism. Because if saying anything negative about anyone else in the world or any country in the world equates bigotry and racism and whatnot to you, then of course this is incredibly racist. And how dare DJ Trump say such a thing? How dare you, Mr. President? But on the other side, if you're of the other persuasion in this country that believes everything that Donald J. Trump does is the greatest thing in the world, and you've placed your faith in him as your Lord and Savior, then you're not going to be offended by this. And you do have the right, either way, to believe the things you want to believe. But let me leave you with this important piece of information. From CBS News, some also pointed to the factual inaccuracies in Mr. Trump's comments. He claimed that the 4 Democratic congresswomen, quote, originally came from foreign countries, but only Omar. Now, maybe I should back up and tell you who these Congress people are that Donald Trump was talking about. I got to come up to the top here and find it. So he's talking about Democratic Representatives Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York, Rashida Tlaib. That seems like it's spelt wrong. I thought it was Tlaib of Michigan, Ilhan Omar of Minnesota, and Ayanna Pressley of Massachusetts. All right, so now you know who these people are. Let's come back down. Let's talk about the part that I wanted to tell you about that I thought it was really funny. So here we go. Back, CBS News. Some also pointed to the factual inaccuracies in Mr. Trump's comments. He claimed that the 4 Democratic congresswomen originally came from foreign countries, but only Omar was born outside the U.S. Presley, an African American, was born in Ohio. Ocasio-Cortez, of Puerto Rican heritage, was born in New York. Tlaib, I don't know if that's right, that seems what it should be, was the daughter of Palestinian immigrants, was born in Detroit. Omar, a naturalized U.S. citizen, was born in Somalia, a country she and her family fled from because of civil war and ethnic strife. They stayed in a refugee camp in Kenya before settling in the U.S. when she was 10 years old, and she became a citizen at 17. Now, before you start saying to yourselves, oh my goodness, Aaron, you've gone so liberal. How have you done it? You've turned liberal there in California. You're a liberal just like the rest of them. No. I understand that this Omar lady, I try not to pay attention to these things, by the way, in case you're wondering. Like, politics is not my life. I glaze over it and I say, oh, that's ridiculous or not. I realize that she's kind of, to say that she's un-American, I don't think is inaccurate, just in some of the things that I've heard her say. But you lose credit as president, especially as a Republican president, when your argument against your, underlings, like the Congress, in a way, yes, we have the checks and balances, and that's who the Congress is really supposed to be. And in a way, they were actually just kind of doing their job by being the checks on the president. By the way, I think we forget that sometimes on both sides, that each branch of the government is meant to be a check on the other one so that they don't go crazy, no matter if you're a donkey or an elephant. With that said, if your argument as president against people who you don't like, against people who are trying to keep you from putting into action the policies that you want to do, if your argument is, well, if you don't like it, go back to your country, where you came from. If that's your go-to, if that's your argument, if there's no legal process type thing, if there's no governing presidential thing you're going to do, if that's going to be your argument, then you might as well just sit on Twitter all day and tweet your opinion. Oh, wait. That's exactly how this happened. Okay, well, now I get it. I do get it now. I mean, I don't think Trump's the greatest president that ever lived. I think he's better than the one we had before. But now I understand when I see people who I know and love, and people on the streets, saying things like, well, I don't want them here. Why don't they go back where they came from? Well, now I understand why the Donald Trump presidency has happened. It's because those people elected one of their own people. And here we are. We're reaping the benefits of that whole thing. Well, I didn't realize that Walt Disney had grandkids or kids or anything. I've really never looked into it. But, regardless, he does have at least one grandkid, and it's a woman. And according to this story on Yahoo, she was so livid, and they call her Disney heiress. I didn't know that Walt Disney was a king or queen. I didn't know that they... Oh, wait, heiress. Okay, I guess that just means that she was like a daughter of him. Jeez, I gotta delete that part out. Stupid. Come on, man. You gotta Come on, get your game together. Get your game face on. Wow. Oh, boy. So here's what happened. So the Disney queen, Abigail Disney, a filmmaker and philanthropist. I just to have a little cone of honesty here, I've never really understood what the word philanthropist means, and I'm not gonna look it up. If you know what it means, you could let me know if you're really into that sort of thing. If you're into telling podcast hosts things. So she basically went undercover and she went to Disneyland. And I don't know, I feel like, if she doesn't have anything else to do with her life, and this is, what she wants to spend her time doing, going to Disneyland and making sure that workers are happy, when she has no stake in the company or responsibilities whatsoever, then that's fine. And I get it. It was her dad's or grandfather's work. But I would just kind of take the money and run if I were her. But anyway, so she went to Disneyland, talked to people who worked there, and they basically told her that every single one of these people I talked to were saying, I don't know how I can maintain this face of joy and warmth when I have to go home and forage for food in other people's garbage, she recalled, adding that this was not the work environment her grandfather, Roy O. Disney, sought out to create. Wait, hold on a second. Roy O. Disney? I should have looked into this more. But whatever. So she complained to CEO Rob Iger, or however you want to pronounce it. And she said, I wrote Bob a very long email, and one of the things I said to him was, you're a great CEO by any measure, perhaps even the greatest CEO in the country right now. Your legacy is that you're a great manager, and if I were you, I would want something better than that. I would want to be known as the guy who led to a better place, because that's what you have the power to do. The Yahoo article continues on. But Disney said that in response to her email, she got nothing. There was no answer, she said. And basically, they sent her on to the Human Resources Department. And the funny thing about this is that she's like one of the Disney family. And they kind of treated her as if she was just somebody writing in an email like I've done to Starbucks before. One time Starbucks, we waited in line for like a half hour. No, that's too long. I'm not going to exaggerate the story. We waited in line for 10 minutes, let's say. Got to the window, got our drinks, drove away. It got so far away to where when we realized the drinks were very terrible, it was too far to go back. So we didn't go back. We just drank the really watered down drinks. By the way, Starbucks, if you're listening, I'm willing to forgive you and let you sponsor my program. But the Starbucks drinks were terrible. And so I ended up emailing Starbucks because growing up, I just remember that anytime that my mother had a problem, she always wanted to create an environment that was, warming and nice. And she wasn't going to let Starbucks give her crappy drinks. And so she would email Starbucks and they would give her gift cards for free drinks because her drinks were bad. Now, she wasn't scamming the system. Remember this, I'm not advocating scamming the system. She was making real complaints about real events. And so that's what I did. I emailed the company, and the first person I got, and listen, I'm not part of the outrage culture. I will not participate in the outrage culture. It takes me a little bit more than that to get to, I started outrage on the inside, then the outrage doesn't come out until we hit another level. So I'm not part of the outrage culture. I'm not saying hashtag me too. I'm actually saying hashtag men too. I want to get that one started because people are forgetting about men. Anyway, side note, that was just a, off the cuff thing. But I emailed Starbucks and I said, hey, Starbucks, I just want to let you know, me and my wife were really looking forward to these drinks, and we like going to Starbucks, and it ended up being really terrible, and we were just wondering if we could get a credit back on our account so we can come back and get another drink. And the first guy that emailed me said, "So sorry about that." And that was it. And I was like, oh no, because these were pumpkin spice lattes. They're not cheap. They were the big ones. And I spent like $10 on these coffees. So you bet your sweet Bippy that I was getting that $10 back. And so I emailed them back and I said, listen to me, Starbucks. I work hard for the money. So hard for the money. And Santa came early this year and he stole from me. And the thing I've learned with these companies is sometimes like the more outrageous and almost insane you sound when you email them, the more likely they are to settle with you and not face the outrage culture, because that's the last thing they want. The last thing that they want is bad publicity. So they're not going to, let someone who sounds like they might make a big deal out of it and call their local news. They're not going to let them like run away with the thing. And so they're like, okay, let's stop this, and let's nip it in the bud, and let's give this guy his $10. Well, Disney, when this Abigail Disney complained, they kind of did the same thing. Now it's different because they can't. What are they going to do? Give her free Disneyland tickets? I'm sure she already has those for life. But instead, what they did is they sent her off to HR, and HR reached back out to her and said, hey, look, we're not even going to address the situation that you mentioned with the employees, but we may be bad with our workers, but we have put $150 million into funding for employee education. And basically what they said is, yeah, we are treating our workers bad, but look at this other good thing we've done. As if that works in anywhere in society. Well, he's an alcoholic and he beats his wife, but man, he is the star cleanup batter on his church's softball team. Now, his wife always comes to the games with a black eye, and he has 7 DUIs. But hey, listen, we needed him last year, bottom of the ninth, and we were playing against the old Detroit Church of God, and we were just we tried everything we could. We tried praying the home runs away, and they just kept scoring on us. And he came up, bottom of the ninth, swung the bat, went out of there. The ball got really close to his wife, almost hit her in the face, which would have been good for him because he could have said that the black eye wasn't from him. But you look at all the good he's done. Don't worry about the bad. That doesn't work in real life. And so I leave it up to you to think what you will about the Disney company after this. And let me tell you something. We're not done talking about the Disney company. More on them in just a second. It is the Arnett Show. So glad you're here. Episode 1 of the new Arnett Show. TheArnettShow.com. Glad to have you here. Do you believe that there is life on other planets? Sometimes I make myself laugh. Probably more often than I make others laugh. But do you believe there's life on other planets? And if there is life on other planets, they have nothing better to do than come... I don't know. If there was life on other planets, just let's reason with me here, since I'm kind of about logic and reasoning on this program. If there were aliens, and they made it to us in the 50s, as some propose, crashed their ships, and crashed, would nobody ever come looking for them? Well, Aaron, that's because you don't understand that the United States government signed the Intergalactic Treaty of Federation of Supergalactic Black Hole Wormhole Space-Time Continuum Treaty with the interstellar beings. Are you kidding me? Listen to yourself, please. Have somebody proofread what you think, if you catch my drift. Anyway... I mean, I'm not saying that there's not aliens out there, but I am saying that there's probably not aliens out there based on the things that we know. And you know how much we know? Not much. We know that there's life here. And even though it's pretty obvious that someone created it, we literally, I mean, listen, you don't have to look very far to see that God created the heavens and the earth. I mean, you can read it in the Bible, but then you can just look at a leaf. Look at all the little veins in a leaf. You think that, there were just a big boom, and then all this happened? I don't know. That seems kind of far-fetched to me. Seems like you need more faith than I do to believe that. But anyway, so... I ran into this the other day, and I don't even actually... No, I saw it because a friend of mine on Facebook liked it. And I thought to myself, is this serious? And when I saw it, there was only about 300,000 people only. I thought it was a lot then. 300,000 people at the time had said that they were going to storm Area 51. They can't stop all of us, which is this event on Facebook. And in case you're wondering, it's happening on September 20th. And I am highly not advising you to go to this event. I feel like if there's one event you attend this summer, this fall, let it not be this one. Because this is one of the dumbest ideas I've ever heard. Can you imagine in World War II if somebody had the bright idea, hey, wait a minute, let's just all of us run over there at the Nazis unarmed, but a bunch of us. They can't stop all of us. The title of this thing is literally called They Can't Stop All of Us. Storm Area 51, They Can't Stop All of Us. And it was started as a joke, but there's a lot of people who are taking it seriously, I think. And the thing is, even though I'm saying don't go to this, and I'm still saying don't go to this, that's a really dumb idea, I'm interested to see what happens if people do actually go to this. This could be one of the most interesting things in the world. Do I think that they're going to get in and find anything? Nope. But I sure would like to see how the government responds to it. And when I had first found out about it last week, when there was only the 300,000 or whatever, no one had responded yet. But now, as of recording this, I'm looking at the Facebook page, and I misquoted it earlier in the intro to the program, but 1.1 million have responded saying they're going, and 966,000 say they might be going. So that's good. It's good to have almost exactly the amount saying maybe. as saying going, because you want to make sure you can plan for like snacks and drinks and stuff. So I'm glad that they've at least said interested. They haven't ignored it, and they're at least giving us a heads up on whether or not we should buy more chips and salsa or not for the event. And I'm interested to see what happens. But now that we've got over 1 million people saying that they're going to show up, the government has responded. And someone from the Air Force responded, and this article from CNN says that the government is not as lighthearted about the situation as folks on the internet are. And then it says they're quoting a representative from the U.S. Air Force that says, Area 51 is an open training range for the U.S. Air Force, and we would discourage anyone from trying to come into the area where we train American armed forces. The U.S. Air Force always stands ready to protect America and its assets. I can't even imagine what might take place if people really try to do this. Can you? I mean, I don't... 1.1 million is a lot. But let's say, because this is how things usually work out in my world, 1.1 million say that they're going to show up, and like 10% of that actually do. What does that work out to? I'm no mathematician. Let's ask Siri. Siri, what is 10% of 1.1 million?
It's 110,000.
Okay, if 110,000... Thank you, Siri. Thank you.
You're welcome.
If 110,000 people show up to Area 51 and storm it, I don't think they stand a chance. Have they not heard of World War II and how that ended up for the Japanese or the Nazis even? I mean, I feel like that amount of people died in like a week or even a day in some cases in some of the wars we've gone through in this country. To think that they can't stop all of us is kind of foolish, and not sure if that is the best idea in the world to try to storm Area 51. Now, earlier on in the program, we told you about how some gators may have learned how to do meth, and this is just so sad, people. It's so sad. It's sad when, people are doing drugs. It's sad when the cigarette companies and the what do you call those things? The e-tobacco thing. I can't even think of what those are called. They're targeting children younger and younger, and now it's just gotten sad. Now gators are doing meth. You wouldn't think they'd be able to because they don't even have thumbs. And I was just at the zoo the other day, and I saw an alligator, and its hands don't even come up past its face. But gosh, some police in Alabama recently arrested a man after he allegedly tried to flush 12 grams of drugs down his toilet. Was it exactly a dozen? Was it 12 grams? Anyway, of drugs down his toilet. Something police jokingly said could create, quote, meth gators in Alabama. This is from AL.com, which I think is an Alabama, news source. Officers with the Loretto Police Department in Tennessee. This is confusing because it's Alabama. Okay, Tennessee meth gators. That would be great because it's such a lame mascot for the University of Tennessee. Volunteers. We're volunteers. Yeah, well, we don't show up all the time when we say we will, and we try to do the best we can, but we don't feel obligated to always be there. We're volunteers, man. We may beat you in this football game, but we might go to the lake instead. That's lame. How scary would the Tennessee meth gators be? That would be a scary bunch. Not only are gators super strong normally, but you get a gator on meth, and that's indestructible. I'd like to see I'd love to see Meth Gator in an Avengers movie. Anyway, the police department said that in a thing on Facebook, folks, please don't flush your drugs. When you send something down the sewer pipe, it ends up in our retention ponds for processing before it is sent downstream. Now, our sewer guys take great pride in releasing water that is cleaner than what's in the creek, but they are not really prepared for meth. Ducks, geese, and other fowl frequent our treatment ponds, and we shudder to think what one all hyped up on meth would do. Furthermore, it made it far enough. Oh, if it made it far enough, we could create meth gators in Shoal Creek and the Tennessee River down in North Alabama. They've had enough methed up animals the past few weeks without our help. So if you need to dispose of your drugs, just give us a call and we will make sure they're disposed of in the proper way. Now, there are people out there who are afraid of using a straw because they think that somehow, even if they lived in the most center point of the United States, they fear that straw is going to make it into the eye socket of a sea turtle. I'm here to tell you it's not. And let's just take a little parentheses in this conversation. The next time that somebody tells you that we're running out of landfill space or whatever, take a drive through the northern part of Nevada and you will realize that we got plenty of space for garbage. And this is going to sound crass and you're going to say, Aaron, you're insane. How could you, you monster, you animal? How could you say this? But I was in Yosemite a few weeks ago and we hiked up to the top of Sentinel Dome and we're overlooking Half Dome and the waterfalls and the entire beautiful Yosemite Valley. And the first thought that came to my head was, gosh, I'm so glad I brought this snack. And then the second thought that came to my head was, you could fit a lot of garbage in this valley. And I'm not saying that I want to fill Yosemite with garbage, but what I'm saying is if we had to fill somewhere with garbage, if the planet depended on it, we could fit a lot of garbage in Yosemite. I'm just being honest. I'm telling you there's solutions out there that we haven't thought of yet. Some people want to blow up the dam in Yosemite to restore it to its natural habitat or whatever. And listen, if getting rid of that dam meant that we had another 500 years of storage space for garbage, I'm all for it. And San Francisco wouldn't get water anymore either, so we could put garbage there with the rest of it too. Oh, that was a zinger. Last couple stories here. 4 kids in Australia packed up an SUV with some fishing rods, and they drove 600 miles before police caught up to them. It was a 14-year-old boy, 2 13-year-old boys, and a 10-year-old girl. This is the funny thing is the way that they got caught is they filled up their car at an Outback gas station, which is great because do you think people in Australia know that we have restaurants here called Outback? Anyway, they filled it up, drove about 600 miles, didn't pay for the gas, and they ended up getting on the security camera that way, and a highway patrolman saw them and was like, well, that boy... He was like, man, that I was going to try an Australian accent there, but I realized that I can't do it. I feel like that's one I can go, hey, mate, and that's it. Shrimp on the barbie, oh, Steve Owen. And anyway, they saw these kids driving, caught them, and I thought that it was interesting that this news story included this very important information. It says, banana truck stop cashier Harry White said the SUV drove off without paying for diesel at 4:35 a.m. on Sunday. He estimated... I'm so glad they got these estimates from Harry White from the banana truck stop. He estimated that the children... I wonder if Harry White's related to Barry White. Can't get enough of your love, babe. He estimated that the children must have left Rockhampton around midnight. Banana is a town of a few hundred people that grows no bananas and is named after a dun-colored bull. And I have no idea what any of that means to this story or what the point of that is. The reason that the kids even ended up getting caught is because the driver was short and the police officer thought, wow, that's a really short person driving this car. At least I feel like this is the biggest news story to hit Australia in a long time. And if that's the most of their problems, maybe I need to take a trip down under. Outrage culture. This one's for you. Last week, if you missed it, the outrage culture was just steaming. They were like, an 1850s steam train, east meets west, putting the golden spike into the track. Ulysses S. Grant or whoever that was. They were steaming. They were like, you might as well call the outrage culture a steaming pot of noodles. Luigi steaming top ramen noodle boys, because a black person, an African American, was named the actress for the upcoming Mermaid movie. No! How dare you? That's my favorite film ever. How dare they? How dare they make a black person a mermaid? They're seriously, no, seriously, this was something that people were mad about. The same people who would say that Donald Trump isn't racist, and I'm not saying he is racist, but I'm just saying some of the same people who would say that the things he said about those people going back to their own country is not racist, are mad that they made a black person a fictional character in a Disney movie. I told you we talk about Disney again. Here it is. I could not, if there was something that I could not care less about, it was this. And I'll tell you why. It's fiction. There have been plenty of race change movies in the past. I don't know why people are up in arms about that. Why does it matter? And a while after I was thinking about all the outrage about Ariel being made into, or being played by an actor of a different race than the original drawing, was that there was already a character in a Disney movie that was played by somebody who's African American that wasn't originally played by somebody who was African American. And I'm going to give you just like 5 seconds to think of what it was. Ready? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Did you think of it? If not, it's okay. I'm going to tell you right now. You ready? Where was the outrage culture when Will Smith was named to be the genie for Aladdin? I don't remember. Zero. I don't remember any outrage over the fact that the genie was going to be played by Will Smith. Nothing. And I think he did a pretty good job. I just saw the movie a couple weeks ago. He did a great job. He was no Robin Williams, that's for sure. But they're just stylistically completely different. Doesn't mean one is better than the other. No. Do you think anybody in America watched Aladdin and said, gosh, I loved every bit of that movie. Every single bit of it. Great movie. Love the film. Great thing. Just wish the genie wasn't black. Gosh. That ruined it for me. No. Nobody thinks that way. No sane person thinks that way. So all the outrage over Ariel being played by an African American is like, it's incomprehensible to me that there would be any outrage. But I'm just waiting. I'm waiting because I know this is probably on the cusp of outrage, the outrage culture. So I'm trying to smooth things over before it even gets there. Listen to this one. This one comes from the dailymail.co.uk, dailymail.co.uk. Since Daniel Craig announced he was standing down as James Bond, debate has raged whether the next 007 should be a woman or black. Oh no, outrage culture. Calm down. Take a drink of water. It's all right. Get a cold washcloth, put it on your forehead. Now the Mail on Sunday can reveal that she will be both, thanks to the intervention of feminist TV writer Phoebe Waller-Bridge. Oh, no. In what's been called a popcorn-dropping moment, British star Lashana Lynch will be given Bond's license to kill in the 25th movie in the franchise, currently being shot in Italy and the UK. Oh, no, 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 no. Not James Bond. Not my little Jimmy Bond. How can they make him first black and now a woman? This is an outrage. Help me, DJ Trump. Help me. This can't be saying it so. I wish we could you know what? Back in 1776, we broke away from the UK and we kicked them back across the pond. But now we need to go back over there and make Britain great again, because this shouldn't be. It is un-American to have a black woman James Bond. That's unbelievable. I remember when Sean Connery was James Bond, was you know what he was? He was fantastic. He was funny. He was sexy, and he was not black or a woman. There's no way that can be James Bond to me. That's ridiculous. Now, I hope the preceding dramatization that you just heard makes you realize how ridiculous the outrage culture is sometimes. I cannot believe it. And honestly, the things that I just said, start looking at the comments section on stories about this, and you'll realize that it's not far from what's really going on out there. Well, lastly on the program, a little segment that I like to call history that is not so accurate. Not so accurate history. I was looking it up the other day, and I wondered to myself, how did the game of bowling start? And I asked the question, and I said to myself, I'm not going to look it up, because I know it in my heart. And I'm going to tell you right now the not so accurate history of bowling. You see, bowling began as a Pacific Island sport in the 1700s. Land was fertile, times were fun, but surfboards hadn't really been invented yet. And so the island folk had to think of a way to pass the time as they relaxed near the waves, which were highly annoying to them at the time because they didn't know how to surf them. And so one day, a farmer named, the name's not important, a farmer had taken his pineapples to the farmer's market. Yes, the farmer's market, Honolulu, Halawala, Makiki, Laka, Malay Market is where it was. And he had lined up his pineapples, 10 of them. He had grown 10 pineapples. He lined them up in a diamond shape, and he was very proud of the way it looked, and he wanted to sell them one by one until his pyramid-looking pineapple stand from above was all sold out. But then came along another farmer, and this farmer didn't grow pineapples because he just couldn't stand the tangy taste. But what he grew instead was watermelons. And he had a cart. And oddly enough, the cart had wheels that were made out of pineapples. And as the cart was coming by the pineapple stand, one of the pineapple wheels snapped. It was very poorly constructed, but it was kind of cool because like the pointy green end of the pineapple was kind of like the spikes in those old movies where the trucks would have spikes on their rims of their wheels. And the watermelon rolled off, and it knocked down all of the pineapples. That is, all of them except for the 7 and 10. The 7th and the 10th pineapples stood there, standing, opposing, about 3 feet from each other. And this was the very first 7-10 split. Since those 2 pineapples remained standing, the farmer was like, those must be good luck. And the watermelon guy said, no, those are terrible luck. I'll knock down both of them with this one watermelon. And he threw it, and it only knocked down one of them. But the rest of that night, until 4 in the morning, these two farmers kept setting the pineapples back up. Once, twice, 3, 4, 10 times. 10 times, 2 turns each. They tried to knock down these pineapples with their watermelons, trying to see who could have the best. And then they decided to themselves, you know what? This is fun. But let's try to make the scoring as ridiculous as possible so that nobody can understand our game. Why? Because we can. And that, my good folks, is the not-so-accurate history of pineapples, watermelons, and bowling. Thank you so much for being here for the Arnett Show, Episode 1. I hope you enjoyed the nonsense. I hope that if you're part of the outrage culture, that we were able to calm you down a little bit. And if I ended up actually raising your blood pressure a little bit, that was purely coincidental. But you should probably see a doctor. My name is Aaron Arnett. This is The Arnett Show. Of course, you can find us at thearnettshow.com. Check us out on YouTube. If you subscribe to us on YouTube, you can watch the show live as it happens. Otherwise, you gotta wait until the following Monday, or sometimes Tuesday, to download it. Until next time, I'm Aaron Arnett. Stay out of trouble.